My name's Chelsea Brooks, and I'm 42 years old. I live in Chicago, on the west side, where the winters cut deep, and the city never really sleeps. If you looked at me today, you'd probably think I had it all together: a decent job, a roof over my head, a smile when people pass by. But the truth is, I haven't felt whole in a long time. And what I'm about to tell you, well, it's the story of how I lost almost everything because I decided to speak up. Not just for me, but for someone who didn't have the power to. I've worked at Ridgefield Financial for almost 12 years. Same office, same cubicle, same coffee machine that's been broken since 2019. I started there when I was 30, fresh out of night school, trying to prove that a black woman could make it in a room full of men who thought diversity meant adding one person of color to the Christmas photo. For the longest time, I stayed quiet. You learn that in corporate America: how to swallow your pride, how to laugh at jokes that aren't funny, how to make yourself small enough to fit the space they give you. But things changed when Marcus Hill got hired. He was 26, new to the job, full of energy and ideas. Smart kid. Reminded me of my nephew. We worked in the same department. He'd stop by my desk sometimes, asking for help with reports or just talking about basketball. He had this way of making the office feel lighter, like it wasn't all just fluorescent lights and fake smiles. Then one Monday morning, I noticed something off. Marcus looked tired. Not regular tired, drained. He kept his eyes down, avoided everyone. During lunch, I asked, "You good, baby?" He looked up at me for half a second, then back down at his food. "Yeah, just tired." But his voice was shaking. That Friday, I stayed late to finish a project. The office was almost empty. As I walked past the break room, I heard voices, his and Mr. Leonard's, our department head. Leonard was one of those men who carried himself like he owned the building. Big handshake, fake charm, and a smile that never reached his eyes. When I peeked in, I froze. Leonard had Marcus backed into a corner, whispering something I couldn't fully hear, but I caught a few words. "You owe me, kid. You know how this works. You want that promotion, don't you?" Marcus's voice cracked. I didn't agree to that. Then Leonard laughed, low and cruel. "You'll agree if you want to keep your job." I felt my stomach twist. That wasn't a negotiation, that was coercion. I didn't say anything right then. I just walked out quietly. But the next morning, Marcus called in sick. Then the next week too. When he came back, he looked hollow. Wouldn't talk to anyone. Something in me snapped. I'd spent years staying quiet, watching things happen: comments, power plays, unfair promotions. But this time felt different. This was someone's future being crushed by the same kind of man who'd stepped on me more times than I could count. So I filed a report with HR. It was detailed: dates, conversations, witnesses. I knew it was risky. But I thought, surely, the truth will matter. I was wrong. The next few weeks were a blur. Meetings behind closed doors. Strange looks from coworkers. Leonard still walking around like nothing happened. Then one morning, I came in to find my computer locked and a note on my desk. "Please see HR immediately." They didn't even try to sugarcoat it. "Due to restructuring," they said, "your position is being eliminated." But there was no restructuring. Just retaliation. I walked out of that building with my box of things: family photos, pens, a half-dead plant, and a fire in my chest that I hadn't felt in years. That's when I realized, speaking up doesn't always make you a hero. Sometimes it just makes you a target. But here's where the story changes, because what they didn't expect was that I wasn't done fighting. They thought firing me would silence me. Instead, it made me louder. Because 2 weeks later, something happened that no one in that building saw coming. And that's where my story really begins. 2 weeks after they fired me, I was still waking up at 6 every morning out of habit. Old routines die hard. I'd sit at my kitchen table with a cup of black coffee, staring at the same computer I used to check work emails, and I'd feel that same mix of anger and disbelief wash over me. I'd done everything right. I showed up on time, worked overtime, trained half the people in that office, and still, the moment I tried to stand up for someone else, they threw me out like I didn't matter. But what hurt the most wasn't losing the job. It was knowing that Marcus was still in there, and probably suffering in silence. One rainy afternoon, there was a knock at my door. When I opened it, Marcus stood there, hood pulled up, eyes heavy. "Can I come in?" he asked. He looked thinner, older somehow, like the job had aged him years. I poured him some coffee and let him talk. He told me everything. How Leonard had been blackmailing him, using a small mistake on a report to threaten his position. How he'd demanded favors in exchange for looking the other way. And how, after my report, Leonard had turned the entire department against him. Marcus's voice broke when he said, "I thought you forgot about me." I shook my head. "No, baby. I was just getting ready for the long game." That night, I made a decision. I wasn't going to let them bury the truth. So I reached out to a friend of mine, Darnell, who worked at the Chicago Tribune. We'd gone to high school together. He'd always said, "If you ever got a story that needs telling, call me first." I told him everything, names, dates, proof, emails I'd quietly forwarded to myself before they locked my account. He listened for over an hour. When I finished, there was a long silence. Then he said, "Chelsea, this isn't just about you. This is systemic. They've been doing this for years." Within a week, the article went live. Local financial firm faces allegations of workplace harassment and retaliation. It spread like wildfire. Suddenly, people who'd been silent started speaking up. Former employees came forward. Even a few current ones, hiding behind anonymity, sent in their stories. And Leonard? He disappeared faster than smoke in a storm. A few days later, I got another knock on my door, this time from the company's new HR director. She said they were deeply sorry for how things were handled and offered a settlement to avoid legal complications. I didn't take it. Money couldn't buy back integrity. I told her, "Keep it. Just make sure no one else ever goes through what we did." For the first time in years, I felt at peace. As for Marcus, he found a new job not long after. Better pay, better leadership, better everything. We still talk sometimes. He calls me Miss Brooks like he always did, no matter how many times I tell him he doesn't have to. He told me once, "You didn't just save my career, you saved my self-respect." I told him the truth. "Baby, I didn't save you. You just needed someone to remind you what you were worth." Looking back now, I realize that speaking up cost me a lot. It cost me my comfort, my job, my peace for a while. But it also gave me something I didn't know I still had, my voice. And that's the thing about truth. You can bury it under fear, under lies, under office politics and power, but it doesn't stay down forever. Sooner or later, it rises. So to anyone listening out there who's been silenced, overlooked, or intimidated into staying quiet, remember this. You don't have to be loud to be heard. You just have to be brave enough to speak once, and mean it. Because courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes, it whispers, "Not today." And that whisper? That's where change begins.